Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. There are a host of challenges that come from living with memory loss, but according to research, one of the biggest challenges is that memory loss can sever social connections at a time when those connections are needed more than ever. One of the ways to maintain and even expand social connections for people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease is through memory cafes. As part of our ongoing partnership with UVM Center on Aging, we're going to learn more about memory cafes, including the newest one in Vermont. I'm joined by two guests this afternoon. Jessie Cornell serves as the outreach specialist for the Alzheimer's Association of Vermont, and Ellen Gagnon is a dementia care consultant from Essex Junction. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Ellen, what is a memory cafe?
Well, a memory cafe is a social group where people living with Alzheimer's and dementia and their care partners can come spend some time on a regular basis in a place of non-judgment, a place where people are going down the same path, so a place of support and a place of fun.
Mm-hmm. You said a place of non-judgment. What does that mean?
People living with dementia and Alzheimer's often are judged just because there's a lack of understanding for what the disease is and how it impacts people. And oftentimes people are aware of that judgment. And so isolation happens, and because it's difficult to be, you know, in the world where people are, you're just not who you once were and not able to navigate as you once were able to navigate.
So how does the cafe work?
The cafe works, it's once a month. Our cafe, the Queen City Memory Cafe, is the third Saturday of each month from 10 to noon at the Thayer House in the north end of Burlington. And it's a coffee time. It's come in, you know, when you can. It starts at 10, but there's certainly people flowing in at all points. It's very social. We have coffee and snacks, and then there's some type of program. We've had people come and sing, and we've had people come and play instruments, and so it's different each month, but basically it's a social time for people.
And how did this memory cafe concept come about?
It was first developed in 1997 in the Netherlands, just targeting the need for people to have an opportunity to be together in a social situation that's fun and, you know, for them. And at this point, I believe there's over 100 memory cafes in the United States. So
wow, that's great.
It's quickly growing.
And the newest memory cafe, as you mentioned, in Vermont is called the Queen City Memory Cafe. And so, Jessie, where is it and who started it?
So it started organically. It was quite a beautiful story, actually. There were a set of community members who came together. First, a very large set of people who shared ideas. We had great brainstorming sessions, and then really drilled down to a core team of what we call the Volunteer Steering Committee. And by the way, Judy, we are looking for participants to join us on that committee, so just give me a call and we can talk about what that might mean. But we've come together to create this social and supportive time, and we are fortunate enough to be able to visit the Thayer House Garden Commons room, which is 1197 North Ave in Burlington. So we hope to see everyone there.
So talk a little bit more about the need for a memory cafe and some of the benefits.
Yeah, that sense of isolation that you opened with, I think, is very real to many people who have experienced any difference in their lifetime, whether it be a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease or dementia or memory loss, or even during transitional times in their life, when things start to shift and the social network and the social framework that they had developed really might fall away. And it's oftentimes because people don't understand how to interact with someone with dementia and how to be supportive. So the cafe is there so that there is a place of comfort where you can let your guard down and just be who you are in that moment and experience friendship and kinship.
And for caregivers, too, this is important.
Oh, it's critical. I think that's one of the beautiful things that we see is the caregivers beginning to have a sense of camaraderie and support. And we see folks begin to look forward to each month knowing that they're going to connect again with friends who get it. It's that simple to be with someone who gets it.
And which is tough because, you know, your daily routine and your life routine is really disrupted to a certain extent because folks that you used to socialize with now all of a sudden notice a difference in either your spouse or yourself. Don't know how to deal with that, kind of shy away from that, especially if it's, I know in my father's case it was, you know, they used to go out to dinner a lot with friends, and then it was, you know, dad forgetting things or spilling soup or things that, you know, all of a sudden were starting to happen.
Right.
And he was very upset by it, but so were the other people at the table.
Right. And that is a loss for your parents, and that's something that really brought them a lot of joy, and they did together, such as going out to lunch or dinner with friends, is a loss, and there are losses. And so part of the goal or the genesis for the Memory Cafe is to provide that opportunity for people to be a couple and to socialize with other couples without that fear of something going wrong or that change that other people are noticing. Everyone's accepted where they are.
And it's nice too because I feel that the family or friends that come with the person with memory loss really have the opportunity to spend time as just that, their traditional role, the family or friends. It's not about caregiving in those 2 hours that we're spending together. It's about being in relationship with one another.
What's the format or the structure, if you will, of the cafe?
Well, the cafe, it's, as I said, it starts at 10, and we start with a social hour, coffee and snacks, and people we have tables set up much like a cafe where people help themselves, and then they just chat and, you know, catch up from the prior month, and then we have a program of some kind. I'm thinking of a story of, we had a woman, the first, Carol Ann Jones, come the first cafe. She's fabulous, and it really engendered a lot of conversation among the participants. And one of the gentlemen who was there with his wife talked about his wife and how what did she play? I can't remember.
The mountain dulcimer.
The mountain dulcimer, and he was so proud of her. And he said, well, my wife is a musician. And so that was a beautiful moment where he could share something about his wife and his pride with his wife. And so she played at the following cafe with a friend. So it's really pretty informal, Judy. And there is a structure, but we call it a flexible structure. Kind of, it's really owned by the people that participate in the program, and we're there to help support that in whatever way we can.
And so it's not a drop-off center, though?
It is not a drop-off center, no, because really we're promoting the opportunity for people to be a couple or to be a daughter and a mother. It's not there for people to come solo and you know, without their care partner or their loved one.
Talk a little bit about how something like this, that 2 hours or forever long the cafe lasts, what kind of a respite is that for the caregiver as far as not having to worry about all the things that you normally worry about?
Sure. I think it's really important because I had alluded to this earlier, but that sense of just being able to be who you are in that moment. I think we take for granted what it's like to walk through this world feeling confident in ourselves and who we are and our abilities. And caregivers even start to doubt that, I think, sometimes along their journey with their loved one with memory loss. So being in a place for 2 hours where you can take a deep breath and not have to worry about a bathroom trip or what someone is going to say and how they're going to say it and how it's going to be perceived. And they can just be, we take for granted for that, but it is a very positive way for caregivers to recharge. And the person with the disease too.
Yeah, I would imagine. So once again, where and when is this new Queen City Memory Cafe?
So we're very fortunate to be hosted at the Thayer House Garden Commons Room, and it's on 1197 North Ave in Burlington.
Do you have to make reservations?
No, please come visit. We're happy to see you. And November 15th is our next cafe.
And there are other cafes in Vermont as well?
Absolutely. We're very fortunate in this state. Montpelier Memory Cafe meets the second Saturday monthly at the Montpelier Senior Activity Center on Berry Street. And they meet from 10 a.m. to 11:30. And if folks would like to learn more, please give Liz Dodd a call. And then we're also fortunate to have
the Valley Cafe, which is at the Valley Terrace Assisted Living in White River Junction. It's Saturdays as scheduled. Right now it's not a regular Saturday event during the month, so please call 802-281-4187 for more information about that cafe.
And there's also the North Country Memory Cafe.
Indeed, in St. Albans at the library right on Maiden Lane. And they meet monthly on the third Wednesday in the afternoon. And Alan can be reached at 524-6534 for more information.
Given our aging society, is it fair to say that there are going to be more efforts like these memory cafes kind of popping up?
That is the hope, for sure, Judy. I mean, we can't deny the fact that the population is aging rapidly, and the challenges that might come along with that in memory care.
Can you give us some sort of statewide anecdotes as far as about how many folks in Vermont maybe have Alzheimer's disease?
Sure. So there are about 11,500 Vermonters living with Alzheimer's disease, and then about 30,000 caregivers that are providing non-paid care for those individuals. Across the nation, over 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. And it's astounding, but every 67 seconds, someone develops Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
And so, for the folks who might be saying, well, this doesn't affect my family now, it's heads up.
Heads up and look next door, because chances are if it's not in your family, it's in your neighborhood, and there are ways you can support those families.
Well, I think it's safe to say that almost everybody knows somebody who's affected by this disease. What advice would you have for maybe someone who's not directly affected, but has friends who are kind of going through this?
Be supportive. Offer to, offer to some respite. Going to the grocery store, check in. It's no different from any other chronic illness in that way. I mean, whatever you would do for someone is what you could do for a friend who's a caregiver or who's struggling with the challenges of the disease.
Let's talk about some of the other challenges as well too with Alzheimer's or memory loss. What would you say is probably the #1 thing that affects the person and the caregiver?
I think for the person, particularly in the early stages, it's a sense or an opportunity to reinvent themselves and how they view themselves in the world. And that can be really challenging to receive a diagnosis of such an impact, knowing the outcome and how you're managing your emotions and future plans for your family and yourself. And for caregivers, I would say it's being able to learn to be in the moment and not
with the challenges that come with the frustration that comes with the world moves really fast, and people living with cognitive impairment do not. And so that I think that's one of the greatest struggles we find at the cafe also, that people that intend to come are sometimes don't, and that often has to do with the challenge in the morning of getting up and getting out the door. I mean, just from the beginning and the start of the day. So moving slower than the world around you is moving is not always easy, but being in the moment certainly promotes that opportunity.
And when do you think a spouse or caregiver should say, you know what, I need more help?
Early on.
Yeah,
I think if you
early
get
as
in the
possible.
habit of being willing and able to ask and accept help, that's one of the healthiest habits as a caregiver or a person with the disease can really begin to develop.
Relationships with others, And I think as women, oftentimes, I don't mean to generalize, but we think we can do this.
Right.
We can do this. And then you get to the point, or I see often with people, that you're so exhausted, you can't see the options. So again, to Jesse's point, get the help, find what supports are out there before you get to the point of crisis where you just can't handle it anymore.
And sometimes people get so overwhelmed that they don't even know what help could mean or where to turn for that. And that's where I would encourage you to contact the Alzheimer's Association. We can have a conversation. We can talk about what's working really well and what challenges you're facing and how we might bring in some added supports to alleviate some of that stress.
Because, at first, I think, at least with my parents' case, my mother kind of tried to hide it, did other things to help my father so that people wouldn't notice, perhaps, his memory loss or his inability to do something that he's always been able to do. And I think that she spent so much time on that she started to feel sick. And that was dangerous for us as the children, thinking, oh gosh, if something happens to mom, what are we going to do?
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think that's uncommon either, but I would encourage those caregivers to learn from folks who have shared with me about their diagnosis and their decision to disclose their diagnosis, that there is a tremendous sense of relief when they're open about it. The world can come and help you, and your neighborhood can be supportive. But if you're closing in, it's really difficult for people to know how to offer help.
And so we're just about out of time, but before we go, a reminder out to our viewers for some of the details of Vermont's newest Memory Cafe, which is the Queen City Memory Cafe, which is where?
The Thayer House, Gardens Common
That's
Room,
okay.
on the north side of Burlington, right up on North Ave.
And obviously, for more information on that, just give folks a call.
Yes, please
Yes,
do.
please do.
And it's open to anybody?
Anybody, and I would encourage you, if you are considering but you're nervous about it, please come and try it. We'll be happy to guide you through it.
All right, and even if it's, you know, you have maybe a parent who's out of state, like we are, it might be kind of a nice thing just to connect with some local folks.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, everybody's welcome. The more, the merrier.
Well, I want to
Yeah.
thank you both for joining us today. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.